Hey, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Man, I saw the sad story of a guy who's working in Wingstop in Irving. I have a friend who works at Wingstop, worked at Wingstop for years. And there was an argument where some 22-year-old customer escalated. There was a gun involved. Man died. Wow. So you see the headline that says a study says 80% of retail workers feel unsafe while on the job. And well, stories like this kind of explain why. My next guest is Scott Baradell. He heads up Idea Grove, also author of Trust Signals, Brand Building in a Post-Truth World. And so it's a guy who, does marketing and branding and whatnot. You overlap quite a bit with people in the retail space. Is there really this big of a concern about safety on the job?
There is. I mean, the survey was commissioned by a company called Theatro, which does retail technology. They're based in Dallas, and they found that, based on surveys of workers across 15 top metro areas across the country, that 80% said they feel unsafe or scared virtually every day. Many say that they've had incidents where they didn't feel like they could respond to a threat because their store was understaffed, which has been a chronic issue since COVID. So there's a lot of concern. And of course, it's driven partly also by just how much has been seen in YouTube and elsewhere social media of, organized groups going in and clearing out stores, taking everything out of a Gucci or name it. And people, I think, in retail situations kind of feel helpless.
Well, some of them are. I remember when this study came out, it came up on the James Show, and a good point was made that if you're looking at the top 15 metro areas, you're really only getting a survey of the retail workers that are in the most densely urban population centers. And I live out in the country. I live like an hour and a half that way. And where I live, I don't think retail workers share the same level of fear as the ones in the big city. Absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the cities like San Francisco and others where they've had the most incidents and where there's the most crime, I mean, that's where people are most likely to be scared for sure.
Well, I also think that makes the number ridiculously high. So when it says 80% of surveyed workers, that doesn't mean 80% of workers. That just means 80% of the people who are stuck in these, these hyper blue dense areas are worried about that. I think there's also answers in that, though. So what are they doing different in these dense jurisdictions that they aren't doing out in the hinterlands? Do they treat criminals the same, or do they punish them a little harder? Are you more or less likely to get arrested for, slight infringements? And I think that's a big player in it, Scott.
Well, yeah, I think certainly if you've got other problems that metro areas have, they're going to seep into every part of the community, including retail stores. And, there have been issues in multiple cities with more crime and things like that, and this falls into that. If you want to look at policy, in California, there's been the issue that you basically, unless you steal more than $1,000 in a shoplifting incident, nothing's going to happen to you. You won't be prosecuted, and that word gets around. People know that, and so that's the kind of thing that where law enforcement plays a part. Retailers, I think, are doing a lot to try to use technology and other things to try to address the issue, but it's hard for them to do it all by themselves.
Well, when you're working at Idea Grove, you necessarily have to deal with a bunch of business owners who are, overlapping in the retail world. What do you see some of your clients doing to, maybe better protect their employees or at least give them the feeling of safety?
Well, in terms of just having greater communication and better training, what Theatro does, and they're based here in Dallas, is they have communication systems where you can have a earpiece that no one can see, and you can have around your belt loop a way to communicate discreetly. So, for example, if you feel unsafe You could say a code word like red truck or whatever. And there's a system in place and processes where it's escalated. Management's told, police can be called, and so forth. So there are things like that where people are trained, hey, don't put yourself in harm's way, but here are steps you can take. That makes people feel a lot better. I think about half the people surveyed said that they didn't feel like their stores were using technology in the way they could to make things better. There are other things like there are retailers that are making the doors not until you scan your receipt and things like that. So there's a lot of different technology ideas that are being tried to address the issue because, retailers are losing a lot in terms of, products and goods that they're then having to charge more for everybody else.
All right, Scott Baradell, take about 30 seconds or so. Tell the guy how he can find you outside of the James Show.
Well, thanks. Well, first of all, the Theatro survey. Find out more about the survey, and the details of that are at theatro.com. My agency is called Idea Grove. My book is Trust Signals, which best way to find that is just go to Amazon and search for Trust Signals, and it'll pop right up.
Thank you very much, Scott Baradell, again on the James Show. If you have any comments on this, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the idea that the Supreme Court could swoop in and overturn the Trump conviction on the hush money trial. Ooh, what would happen then? Also, I'm supposed to remind you, Jane's Addiction is coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory on August 18th. If you don't know who Jane's Addiction is, you're probably a few years older than me or a few years younger than me. But if you're within 10 years of me, I know you would like to go. August 18th, they're going to be with special guest Love and Rockets. Never heard of them, but the tickets are on sale now. LiveNation.com, or you can head over to WBAP.com. They're on the contest page. It's one of the tickets you could win if you register now. WBAP.com. Go to the contest page, or if you want to just skip it and buy now, LiveNation.com. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.